when you look at companies across the board, maybe that are not scalable at a large size, you tend to lose culture the larger you get. It's very, very hard to contain that culture, right? So for us, it was really important to create the foundation of how we truly wanted the business to run and keep a focus on. And so everything we do is really starts and ends with the culture of, not only the team, but our team interiorly, but our B2C and our B2B too is really important to us to maintain that edge of culture.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Cultural alignment is when people feel connected to the work in a way that they just love being there. There's so many elements to cultural alignment that you've got to really focus on those things that make the people feel connected to the work. One of the things that I see a lot of companies do in the early stages of business is they focus on the product and the service. And absolutely important to have the right product or service, to have a business model that supports that kind of thing. Is it the right time for this? There's so many decisions that have to be made that oftentimes the people issues are pushed to the side. If you have intentions to scale your company up beyond where you are today, you want to make sure that you have cultural alignment. You want to make sure that you have people that understand the mission, the vision, the values, that understand how everything fits together and they feel included. They feel a part of this journey with you. I get really excited about this because I know how important it is. Within my own team, I want to make sure everyone feels connected, that I care about who they are as a person, their personal lives, their family lives. And that may sound odd, but cultural alignment is something that is necessary for you to have probably the business that you want. And many times you don't have the business you want because you don't have the kind of cultural alignment that allows for it. Our guest today is Thomas Black. Thomas is going to share with us some of the things that he saw early in the stage of their company on the journey to 6 million and beyond. When you think about cultural alignment, I want to make sure you tune into the right things. One of them is the onboarding process. Are you truly onboarding, just to get them their laptop and get them a place to work? Or do you truly create a place where people want to be a part of? Well, it starts there, but it doesn't end there. You want to make sure you're leading every day, you're consistent with this cultural alignment, and that's what Thomas talks about today in this episode. One of the things I like about this is he talked about some of the key aspects of leadership he had to let go of as a physician into this new style of leadership and really having cultural alignment. We talk about that in today's interviews. Let me pause here for a second. If you are a leader and you want to be a visionary, if you feel like you're always behind or you're always kind of struggling with something, you're not really getting to the heart of it, I'd love to open up an opportunity for you. Just go to genehammett.com. You'll find Try Coaching in the menu there. You can actually click on that link and you can schedule time with me, absolutely free of cost. You can talk about your issues with me. I'd love to get to know you, see if there's a fit there for me to serve you. I'd love to serve you so that you can actually become a more visionary leader, get out of the day-to-day and be the visionary leader that your team craves. Just go to genehammett.com. You'll find Try Coaching and just go ahead and do that now. All right, here's the interview with Thomas Black. Thomas, how are you?
Doing great. Glad to be on.
Excited to have you on the podcast to talk about growth and leadership and all things culture.
I'm excited. Looking forward to it for sure.
I've already let our audience know a little bit about you, but I'd love for you to tell them about Nepali Capital.
Yeah, so this was kind of birthed from my brother and I a number of years ago. First loved the island of Kauai, and that's where the inspiration was really struck from, with the Nepali coast. And both of us having history in the executive ranks over the years. We're looking some way to leverage both of our experiences, mine with physicians and his on the operations side. So about 6 years ago, we teamed up and decided to make a run at it. And we're kind of a pseudo private equity real estate firm is the way we like to think of ourselves.
Love it. When you got that number 21 on the Inc. list, how did you feel?
Funny, I mean, legitimate, I guess, is a really good way of feeling. And Tim, coming off a pretty storied career at Great Wolf, a lot of those things that I had said years ago to me as a physician was really important. And to him, they weren't. I mean, to him, it's just another sign of keep your head down, keep focusing. Those things will come. Well, as a physician, we kind of tend to like titles and badges. And so I was definitely more excited than he was, just because it really framed up all the hard work and to know that we were on the right path.
Well, you've grown fast. You've got a relatively small team, but you've put an emphasis on culture. So why such an emphasis on culture with a small team?
I think it really drives results. To be inclusive as part of the team, we like to incentivize and really have a good time. When you look at companies across the board, maybe that are not scalable at a large size, you tend to lose culture the larger you get. It's very, very hard to contain that culture, right? So for us, it was really important to create the foundation of how we truly wanted the business to run and keep a focus on. And so everything we do is really starts and ends with the culture of, not only the team, but, our team interiorly, but our B2C and our B2B too is really important to us to maintain that edge of culture.
Hold on for a second. Thomas just said you lose culture the bigger a company gets. Well, this is absolutely true. I've seen this happen with many great brands that had a strong culture early in their days, and they lose it as they get bigger because they focus on the short-term driven needs of the financial markets, and they focus on, how do we make sure that people are not front and center. In the early days, they focus on employees in a way that really allows them to feel connected. But when they lose that as the company gets bigger, maybe you go from the family style culture, which might be somewhere around 10, 20 employees, to something of a tribe where you go beyond that. When you get to 100 employees, you will feel the pressures of culture, and that you'll realize that you really wish you would have focused on some of the foundational elements before that. I bring this to light because a lot of people listening in here want to know what's wrong with the business. And a lot of it has to do with the culture and leadership that has allowed the culture to persist the way it is, because everything is a perfect system. This is something I talk about with my clients, but what you have right now is because you have a system within the culture that gives you exactly what you want. If it's not what you want, you still have a system to create that. So you have to go back and rework the system. Now back to the interview with Thomas. It is true that you do lose culture the bigger you get if you don't have some intention around it. So what are the key factors that you look at when you think about defining that culture for the company?
Well, I think it starts with both of us, and it's a top down, right? We really don't take ourselves too seriously at all. And I think that helps tremendously having, the background that we have. I think the biggest thing though is just being humble and being a member of that team first. And there really is no bad questions, no ways to overcome any, structured hierarchy, I guess. We treat everybody as an equal member. And so that's where, and it all starts with us, right? Eating humble pie is a very good thing now and then.
You said something else that ties into this, treating each other as equals, inclusive. I've seen this across fast growth companies that those that include people into decisions and strategies. You have a small enough company where you could actually do that probably on a regular basis. Is that what you mean by inclusion, or is it something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the most part, every decision, every major decision of the company, and even so much as small decisions, even travel, we relegate that to the entire team. So from the ground up, on our Monday morning 2-hour or 1-hour discussions about the week and how we plan it out, we give the opportunity to get as granular with all of our team members as they want. And I think the biggest thing is wanting to go to work. And I know that sounds really simple, but I get up and I really enjoy what I do, and there's a passion about it, and that tends to come through. And we want those kind of team members to feel the same way, that it's not a bore to get up to work because you're actually excited to go do something, and that you feel like you're not only legitimate in the company, but you're helping to raise this. I mean, the company is, kind of akin to a child. It takes a village to raise this thing the right way. And if you've got team members that maybe aren't engaged, it's really apparent, and that can spread like cancer really quickly.
Well, you had said something I want to come back to about your team meetings. What would we see if we were a fly on the wall in your team meetings that you feel like might be different that encourages this cultural alignment?
I guess we kind of just go around the room as a round robin, and everybody gets their chance to discuss what's on their agenda and how they can help. It's varied. There is no structure when it comes to hierarchy of whether that's the executives, the operators in the company. It's still a pretty small team. And so if one of us doesn't have a particularly heavy day, then we're trying to help out the other team members, even as minute as the task can be. We do not worry about high level tasks versus small things. I mean, we're going to jump right in and do whatever needs to be done.
Well, that's certainly one thing. Anything else that you do inside that meeting? Because you said 1 to 2 hours. So there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say one. I mean, if it really depends on where we are. We're undergoing acquisition right now, so a lot of minutia going on, and so that then they and with one of the real estate assets, as well as we just partnered and merged with another platform. So no, I mean it's very light, and there's a lot of banter. We somewhat keep to a structure so that we're not getting off into items that maybe can be discussed in another forum, but everybody gets a say, and it's very lighthearted. I'll say that.
Now, I want to go deeper into the whole cultural alignment, because you had said that was one of the primary drivers of the results of a fast growth company. You're at a little over 16 million now, team members around 20 team members, some new acquisitions and everything. What are your plans right now to keep culture aligned?
Sure. So we start with really good onboarding. We merged with a platform just this week, and we rented out a restaurant and had a very rough outline PowerPoint of who we are, and our basically our 5 major pillars of things, and that goes back to we don't take ourselves too seriously. Our customer and our investors mean everything to us, but the employees actually stand above them. We treat our employees great, and the customer's not always right, in the B2C world, because I think it's more important to maintain that key employee on our team, as well as a big foundation of us is limiting communication in and on the weekends, things like that, and respecting people's spaces. As you can imagine, being a small company with many tasks, things can bleed over into the weekend, and it's really, really, really hard for me because I'm excited and I really want to advance the mission of the company. Sometimes I have to hold myself back of texting, some of the team members, and it's really important to respect that they might not have that same passion, and to pull it back and respect their boundaries for all those things too. And so when I mean culture, I mean it's truly thinking about them in many regards, personally, professionally, their time, their life, to be able to advance our mission too, so they feel appreciated.
Let me break in here for a second. I wanted to remind you that we have a YouTube channel. If you haven't already checked that out and subscribed, I want to make sure that you know that we have some content going on YouTube that you can't find on the podcast, you can't find anywhere else but on YouTube. So we are helping you go get your content there to be a better leader, to be a visionary and strategic that your team needs. Just go to genehammett.com/YouTube, and you'll find more about the things that we can do to help you be a stronger, more effective leader. Go ahead and do it now. It's interesting that you kind of hold back some of that enthusiasm by not texting on the weekend, or I'm gonna add in there late at night.
Yeah, well, sure. It happens all the time, and I force myself because it's different, and I may get excited about somebody, and I'm definitely kind of the mad scientist, where we've got the great operators who are very methodic, very composed. When I get excited, I've just got to pull those things out of my head, and I have to be measured about it, because not always does that excitement translate, right? And it's really important to think of those team members that think differently, and they don't want to be interrupted, because something coming from me, they may take totally different. Like, oh my God, I've got to jump on this now, even though it's Saturday. Where that's not my point. My point is just, hey, be thinking about this. And I'd never want to put somebody in a position to think, well, he's asking me to do this on a Saturday, for example. So we just have to be really mindful about our employees and our partners like that. And I know it sounds very, almost ridiculous, but that's the kind of thought we try and put in their own lives too.
Actually, I don't think it is ridiculous, because I've had enough of these conversations with fast growth leaders. They are cut from a different cloth. The one thing that's really big difference is employee first. And you kind of said it very quickly. I ask what I call the impossible question of many leaders. And I'm always surprised at what I hear, because what I've been told and what I've experienced through my own experience with corporate America, that it's always customer first. But that one question is, as a leader, what's more important, your employees or your customers? Yeah. And you would answer what?
It's absolutely your employees, without a doubt. You can't give good customer service and be good to your customers if you aren't that way with your employees. It's impossible. I mean, the way I view it.
Yeah.
That relationship has to extend, and they have to want to do it. If they're miserable, or they've got some pent up anger, or any number of things that can be really bad for institution, it's never going to get done. You're never going to be able to translate your excitement through your employees to your customers.
I bring that up here because one of these behaviors is some leaders don't even think about when they're going to text or when they're going to send an email, and they don't necessarily mean that you're going to jump on it right now and you have to drop everything and respond at 11:30 at night. But when you get that text, sometimes you want it, and so you hold back. And that's just one example of where you're putting employees and understanding that boundary, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when you look at it from the employee point of view, they may not feel the same way, and that they have to respond immediately, right? They may be put in a pressure situation thinking, oh my gosh, he's a higher level of the company, whatever the hierarchy and structure is. They're going to view that totally differently. And so I try not to put them in that place. And believe me, it is a struggle. It's really
I get it.
And I had to learn that, all the years of practicing a physician, where that you're 24/7, and it took me a long time to realize that, being on the flip side, that I was doing this even as an employee, expecting somebody else to jump when it was on my time. And that is certainly not the way it works. And it can really do damage. It really can. And so I learned the hard way, for sure.
Thomas, I want to kind of keep this going, but I want to come back to this cultural alignment. Is there anything else you've learned the hard way as you've had to evolve as a leader here?
Oh yeah, I'd say that's where it is. Definitely as a physician working in the emergency room years ago, and being on the front lines of that, thinking that the administrators, the executives should be on the same timeline as I was, because I was up at 3 a.m. And I had an issue. Well, not all issues need to be dealt with at 3 a.m., even though they're hitting you right there in the face, and it feels that way. And there's a little bit of that entitlement mentality that you have to think of and reverse that, because when you look at true business doesn't operate that same way. And doctors are, go on a branch that they're really kind of bad about that. We all are. We've been trained very independently, and it's sometimes difficult to look at the team as a whole and to understand there's so many other dynamics than just you. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing when I transitioned in from clinical work into not only healthcare administration but finance, was looking at the team much differently, and realizing that this team is actually kind of this living thing, and you want to treat it as such. When you start making unilateral decisions or being not as inclusive, it can really change things with your team, I would say.
No, hold on for a second. Thomas just said team is a living thing. Did you catch that? Well, it's true. The team is something that changes over time. One of the hardest part of leadership is not the getting the work done, but it's leading the people. And a lot of my clients understand that actually managing the work is easy, but leading the people, that's the hard work. And you got to do more of the hard work. Every time you think about your people, you got to look at them as individuals. You got to have empathy in the right moments and the right dose of empathy so that you're connecting with them. People feel connected to what you're doing. That will give them the energy to push forward through all the challenges that are necessary. You also want to make sure that you're leading from a visionary standpoint. You want to make sure that you are getting people to take ownership of that. If you haven't already downloaded the keys to being a visionary leader, you can do that now. Just go to genehammett.com and you can find the resources there, and you can find it on the homepage as well. But it's the 5 things visionary leaders get right. So make sure that you go ahead and get that now if you want to be a visionary leader. Now back to the interview with Thomas. I appreciate you saying that. I was just having a conversation with a neighbor who's in the medical world, and they said, doctors are trained to be doctors, not to lead and manage people.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It's the two skill sets are not, they're really not. And it takes quite some time to understand that, to look at the flip side of it and really be able to, it's 2 separate communications. A really good physician leader is able to speak business at a whole different level and able to speak clinically, because they're 2 totally separate skill sets. They really are at the end of the day.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And it really relates to a lot of people. It's not just that if you're not a medical person, but if you have never really been trained and understood the ins and outs of leadership, then you're probably going to make some of these mistakes, and they're going to be costly. A lot of people would probably look at you and say, your focus on culture this early in your company life cycle shouldn't happen until you have 50 employees.
Yeah.
Have you ever been told that your focus on employee first?
Yeah. We've gone so far as to, oddly enough, hire coaches, early on. We're talking like 3 people. Like we had that foresight to be able to pay somebody to come into the company just because it was that important to create a foundation, and a really, really solid foundation. Whereas we were told exactly that, wow, I think you guys are the earliest company with, X number of employees we've ever done this with. But we looked at it as, why not start to put that in motion now? Because we knew we were on a pathway that we would start down this road. So yes, I've been told that many a times that it was a little crazy, but we didn't care. I mean, it was really that important to us because people make the difference. Absolutely.
Well, to really drive this home, starting on it early, investing in it with outside people, the impact that it made early is what I would call the foundational, years of your business. Do you feel like you're set up for, doubling your company and tripling your company as you continue to grow?
Yeah, I think it's just opportunity. I think we've got the capital, we've got the know-how, certainly. It's just opportunity out there. We're pretty passionate about operating our own assets and the companies that come in, and so I think we've done a good job with that. We're looking at a lot of different alternatives. We're insanely disciplined to not ruin that culture. Having been in multiple of the private equity worlds, and seen various structures of what happens when companies do sell, or any numbers of times when taking a turn on that PE wheel, companies rapidly change. And so we're really, really, really focused on not losing that. And so growth can't come at the expense of culture.
Absolutely love this. Now, I know I've asked you this about your evolution as a leader. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't covered today that was really kind of instrumental in your company growing this fast?
Oh no, I think we've covered my big, the big things that I've particularly had issues working on, and just trying to temper that excitement and making sure it translates into reality, and not getting too excited about things, knowing that we've got this great trajectory, knowing that we have a great culture. Having been on the flip side of it in many different ways, whether that was early as military or as a physician, not feeling super bought into the company, and having the opposite projected on me to try and have that air of excitement, it's not quite the same. And so, it's really important to do those things for your team members, not only incentives to, let them do different things where they want to, because I think you get it threefold. When you give somebody the opportunity to go on vacation and pay for different things just because, I think it just really creates an atmosphere where they want to be a part, and that's the key. You want to get up and you want to go to work, and it's exciting.
Well, Thomas, thanks for being here on the podcast, sharing your journey with Nepali Capital, and I really wanted to say congratulations on your fast growth.
Well, thank you very much. I loved it. Really appreciate all the time.
So this wraps up an incredible episode with another leader and founder of a fast growth company where they put employees first. I love these conversations with these kind of leaders because it really does tell me I'm in the right place. If you're feeling like your company is, on the verge of being bigger than it could be, but your culture is holding it back, or your leadership individually, make sure you reach out to me, genehammett.com. That's what I do, help you identify your blind spots and move beyond that. Thanks for being, listening to these incredible interviews of these incredible founders and CEOs. When you think of leadership and you think of culture, make sure you think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.